Have you ever heard the saying, you learn best from someone who learned yesterday? In other words, somebody who's taking the journey can tell us more about what they did along the way. Well, our speaker today has had a journey for over 30 years with diabetes. She, during her lifetime, has been diagnosed with three different kinds of diabetes. Okay, so back in 2012, Linda decided to change her diet and she went plant-based and she added exercise and her glucose went, her A1C went from 5.7, 6.7 to 5.8. Wow. So that was pretty good, except that she found out later that she had a special gene and it meant that her pancreas was not making enough insulin. So she had to go on insulin. And she wanted to share what had happened with her. So she retired from her successful corporate career. She had an MBA in finance, and she was working in finance and consulting and focused on health. And here's what she did to make herself ready to share with those about health. She was certified by the National Board for Health and Wellness as a coach, and she holds a lifestyle medicine coach certificate. That came from the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. She completed her health coach training at the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, and she became a master in diabetes coach. Linda has said, I want to help other people, help them avoid what happened to me. I help people move forward when they're stuck. And you know what? Linda's done it in finance and she's done it in other things like health. And we're just glad that she's here today because she's someone who learned yesterday. So she's going to share with us also some of the things that her clients have taught her along the way as they've battled diabetes. So welcome, Linda.
Thank you. Actually, I'm learning today, so I don't have it all figured out by any means. So,
Great.
I'm happy to be here. Are you ready for me to share my screen?
Yes, let's go with it.
Okay. I see a couple of familiar faces. One is Rebecca, a longtime client mastering diabetes who comes to my live office hours frequently. And then I see Robert, of course. So, okay, let's see if I can find my way through. Okay, so we're gonna, I guess Kathy did a brief intro. Um, we're gonna review insulin resistance. We're gonna talk about how to address it, and we're gonna talk about common pitfalls. These are things that we see every day with our clients, and we have we're getting close to 600 active clients right now in Mastering Diabetes. We've had worked with thousands of people since the company was created in 2017. We'll talk a little bit about Mastering Diabetes and I'll answer your questions. Okie doke.
Sounds good.
And keep in mind that I am not a doctor. I am not a nurse. I'm not a diabetes educator. I can't tell you how much insulin to take. I can't tell you whether or not you should change your medication. I'm just a lowly health coach. So I am a board certified coach. I've been 4 years I've been with Mastering Diabetes. I do have an MBA. I think I now have been diagnosed with four different types of diabetes: gestational, type 2, MODY, which is the genetic form, and now my most recent diagnosis is LADA type 1.5. So I am basically an adult with a slowly declining pancreas and autoimmune form of diabetes. So I am on insulin now. I also was a Mastering Diabetes client. I found Mastering Diabetes when they first opened in 2017. I did the large group program. I didn't know my pancreas wasn't working, so I had already been plant-based, and I didn't really get that much out of it, but I knew that it was a good program. So when I went on insulin back in 2020, I came back to Mastering Diabetes and I did private coaching to learn how to manage insulin along with a plant-based diet. And I found the whole process so fun and so engaging that I decided to become a board certified health and wellness coach. So that has taken me here. It took me a couple years to get certified, and I immediately got a position with Mastering Diabetes, which is probably the best job I've ever had because every day I work with people that are like me. I mean, who do you talk to people about diabetes with other than other diabetics? So if you're a person that's on insulin, it's a very small group of people in the world that understand what your life is like. You get sent home with medications that can kill you if you do it wrong, and they say good luck, you know, and then they criticize you if you don't do it well. So it's a frustrating disease. You're basically on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. So it's fun to be part of a team that works with people, helping them. I think Kathy mentioned my plant-based journey. I am married. I have 3 adult children and 1 dog. We are moving to Florida. I'm in the midst of trying to get out of my house in the next week. And I'm an avid traveler with the National Health Association. I met Kathy and Robert, I think on the trip to Greece in 2023. So um, that has been a very, very fun thing to do. So I highly encourage you, if you're plant-based, go on a cruise because it's a lot easier to eat. So, and this is a perfect picture of me because I do love kale. My dog loves kale. I love kale. So that's me in a nutshell. Um, so we'll do a little review here. Insulin resistance, you'll hear this is a thing that we say all the time at Mastering Diabetes. It results from fat being stored in cells not designed to store excess fat. So in your muscle, in your liver, in your pancreas. So kind of by definition, if you have pre-diabetes, type 2 diabetes, you probably have some form of, or you're on your way to a fatty liver type situation as well. Um, so what does insulin do? So when your insulin is a key that allows glucose into our cells. When there is fat in our cells, it's as if there is a lock that you can't open because the key just does not work because there's gum in the lock. Your body can address this by making more insulin. So sometimes if you have a slightly elevated A1C, your doctor will run fasted insulin or a C-peptide test that mimics the amount of insulin you're making. And you might find that you're making tons of insulin. And that might be because you're really insulin resistant and your body is forced to make more insulin than needed to try to get the glucose into your cells, get the insulin to work. So, and I want to note here too that you can remove carbs from the diet to reduce your blood sugar, but it doesn't address the underlying issue of insulin resistance. And so that's where the high fat, low carb diets fail ultimately, is that you're still insulin resistant. So anytime you have anything with any kind of carbohydrate in it, you're going to see a large blood glucose spike. So, in order to reduce insulin resistance, we work with clients to remove excess dietary fats. Specifically, saturated fats are the most damaging, but we like to have people get off of animal products and dairy, oils, and processed foods. We are not, I mean, vegan. I mean, we're vegan, but we're not vegan in the sense of just going to buy any vegan products in a store. That's not what we're talking about. Instead, we want to eat low fat, whole plant foods. And these are mostly not things that are boxed or in containers. There are a few exceptions to that, but we like to focus our diet on greens, starchy and non-starchy vegetables, legumes of any kind. So beans, black beans, garbanzo beans, different kinds of lentils, soy products as well, whole grains, and fruit. And people are so afraid to eat fruit. So that's the most fun part of being a coach is when you hear, I was so afraid of eating fruit and now I get to eat fruit again. It just makes me so happy. And we eat a ton of fruit. And once fat is out of our cells, the insulin works and the glucose can move out of the bloodstream into the cells. That's what you need for energy. The glucose is what you need to power your body, and it will lower your blood glucose and your A1C. Your A1C is just a weighted average of your glucose in your blood over the last 3 months or so. So, what if carbs spike your blood sugar? So, first of all, I like to define what is a spike, and I ask clients that. We have so many people right now that are following the glucose goddess or some low carb way of eating, and they think that their blood sugar should be completely flat. And your body is designed to eat carbohydrate and have your blood sugar go up when you eat it. Um, and then that signals your body that you need insulin. Insulin is released, and then that lets the glucose into the cells, and your blood sugar comes down. And it does take a little time. So a person that isn't struggling with insulin resistance, yes, their blood sugar usually remains under 140 or so, but not always, not for every single meal. But people dealing with insulin resistance will find that their like average blood sugars are higher, their morning blood sugars are higher, and that certain things really raise their blood sugar quickly. Examples of that would be white rice, instant oatmeal, pineapple, watermelon, those kind of foods can make your blood sugar rise faster. So, what if you feel like you are a bit insulin resistant? What can you do? First of all, we recommend having at least 2 cups of leafy greens at every meal. So, this gives you more fiber and more water, and it helps slow down the uptake of glucose when you're digesting your food. It is hugely helpful. So uh, people are like, well, I don't want to eat a salad all the time. We say get a box of greens and eat the greens while you're cooking. Just do anything. Put a little balsamic vinegar on some lettuce. It doesn't have to be a giant salad. Just need to get greens in there. You can pour um, some soup on top of spinach or kale or some other kind of leafy green. And of course, we want all different kinds of greens, not just one kind of green. So any kind of green will do, even things like broccoli and that's which is it's green, but it's not necessarily a green. That works. Cauliflower works. Any kind of food like that will slow down the uptake of glucose. The second one, which I really saw on our most recent retreat, is to move for 15 minutes after a meal. And this says a brisk walk is a good option. A slow walk is a good option, actually. So at our retreat, everybody got up from the table after each meal and took a walk for 15 minutes. And the drop in blood glucose was astonishing. So you can walk the stairs, you can do some lunges, you can do some house cleaning. I think it's always good to plan things like vacuuming and dusting when you are, and like even folding clothes for when you are just finishing eating. So just doing the dishes, maybe you don't get a lot of exercise, but plan your house cleaning, go out and do a little gardening, or just take a walk around the block. It will really reduce how high your blood sugar goes. And even for people who see their blood sugar might go up and then it comes down when they're walking, it will go up after, but it won't go as high. So that is a huge impact. I am in the middle of moving, so I'm going up and down the stairs all day long right now, and my insulin sensitivity is through the roof just from walking, not fast walking, not running the stairs. I'm not actually doing lunges or anything. I'm just walking up and down the stairs, moving around, putting things in boxes, carrying things, and it's just light exercise. So I really encourage you to do that. And the third clue is to slow down and make your meal a pleasurable experience. Eat with friends, and this will really, really slow down your post-meal spikes. Many of us are eating in front of a TV set, or we're looking at our phones, we're in a hurry, we're eating in the car. And if instead you can slow yourself down, you can split your meal in half, eat half the meal, stop, do some dishes or something, and then eat the other half of your meal, you'll see great improvement in what you'd see for a blood glucose spike. There are some other factors that influence insulin sensitivity. One, we've sort of been dancing around this focus on eating high fiber plant foods. So we know that the American diet is really devoid of fiber, and fiber will slow your carbohydrate digestion. It reduces your blood sugar spike and it lowers inflammation. There's a lot of um, press about eating high fiber right now, and all of that is very helpful in order to improve your insulin sensitivity as well. It's awesome to also include regular cardio and resistance training. So we talk about doing, 30 minutes at least of cardiovascular exercise 3 to 4 days a week and 2 days a week of full body resistance training. Cardio exercise will burn glucose, but resistance training is unique in that it builds strong muscles and your muscles work to soak up glucose like a sponge. So we see people that who have perhaps lost a lot of weight previously or very thin as they get older, they sometimes are um, susceptible to higher blood sugar because they just don't have those large muscles in, like, especially in the legs and butt, like you used to have. You need those muscles to soak up the glucose. So we really recommend people work with a trainer because if a lot of people are doing our program, they're also losing weight. We don't want you to lose muscle while you're losing weight, and resistance training really helps with that. So both cardio and resistance training are critical for influencing your insulin sensitivity. The other factor I just want to mention are the other pillars of lifestyle medicine, and those include sleep, stress reduction, spirituality, healthy relationships, and reducing risky substances like drugs and alcohol, tobacco, etc. All of these can have a huge impact on sleep, on your blood glucose. I wanted to mention sleep in particular. I had a client who had lost 100 pounds, but her blood glucose would not go down until she started sleeping. So there is a program called CBTI, CBT for insomnia that was developed at Harvard. And she did that program and she found that she was started to sleep instead of 3 or 4 hours a night, she was sleeping 6 or 8 hours a night and her blood sugar started coming down. So that can be a factor as well. If you are living in a really stressful lifestyle, and you're in a very stressful job, perhaps you're taking care of a loved one, those things can really impact your blood sugar. Fighting with a spouse can impact your blood sugar, as can just getting sick or being on other medications. We have clients that are on statins. Some of those can contribute to type 2 diabetes. I had a client that is on Flomax, which also is impairing his blood sugar. So just know that when you have other conditions, you might have medications that might be negatively impacting your blood sugar and insulin sensitivity. Um, so common pitfalls that we see. So clients come to us, we have a very low fat and high carbohydrate set of meals that we give them for a while. And some people follow the meal plan, some people go on their own and they eat what we call green light foods, which are low fat, high nutrient density foods. And they sometimes report that they can't lose weight and they can't reduce their blood glucose. We ask them to log their food for just a couple of days. So Chronometer, Cronometer, is a great tool for that. It helps people see, are you really eating a low fat diet? and we are aiming for less than 15% of calories from fat for the day. Usually for women, that means about less than 7 or 8 grams of fat per meal. And for men, less than 10 grams of fat per meal. And that is vastly different from what most Americans are eating. I think a lot of people are eating diets that are probably 50% of calories from fat. And it's just not common knowledge to understand really how to translate what the food looks like on your plate into what are my macros? How much fat am I eating? Am I getting the nutrients that I need? And so logging your food, whether you do it for a few days just for information, or whether you decide that you want to do it for a while for accountability, super helpful. Of course, for people who are using insulin and dosing insulin at meals, it's crucial to know how many grams of carbohydrate you're eating at meals, or you are just shooting in the dark to know how much insulin to take. So that's one of the things is trying to make sure your diet is less than 15% of calories from fat. Now uh, ours is a low fat diet. It's probably in line with like Dr. Ornish, Dr. Esselstyn, Dr. Colin Campbell. It's a little bit different from maybe Dr. Furman. He uses a higher fat diet. We use what our founders found in the literature and what we see works for clients. Okay. So you have to kind of decide how much fat you want to eat, but that is a lever you can pull if you find that your blood sugar is too high and you're trying to lower it. The second one is kind of counterintuitive, and that one is to get enough calories. So many people come to us and they think that a plant-based diet means eating salads all day while avoiding fruit, starchy vegetables, legumes, and whole grains. All that does is leave you hangry, and it makes you very susceptible to late night snacking. It also makes you particularly susceptible to snacking on foods that are very high in calorie density. And the one we see most often are nuts, especially in people who have been living a plant-based life already to date. So I see lots of people that are very overweight, have been eating a plant-based diet for a long time. Their blood glucose is stubbornly in the pre-diabetes range, that 5.7 to 6.4 range. And they don't know what they're doing wrong. And they are eating a lot of healthy foods, but they're so hungry that they end up eating, high calorie dense foods at night, popcorn and, rice cakes, sweet things like dates and things like that, which are healthy foods, but they are very calorie dense. Lots of breads, and of course, nuts, particularly nuts. A lot of people are making cashew sauces without really any understanding of what's in there. But you really have to plan your day out. And food prep is really helpful for that. But in addition to just preparing your salad bar to have in the house and your green vegetables to be steaming or eating raw, you have to have some beans and whole grains ready to go for every meal, or you need a couple of meals prepped and ready to go that you can just grab and heat up or eat raw. So we do recommend a half a cup of beans at least, at a minimum, a couple times a day. You can have more than that, but you need at least a cup of beans a day. Men probably need a cup and a half or 2 cups a day. And whole grains. Just avoiding whole grains is an independent risk factor for developing type 2 diabetes. So it's really significant that we aren't avoiding foods. Now, I did say to avoid nuts, but you can still incorporate nuts in very small amounts, like a tablespoon of flax or chia seeds or hemp seeds on your cereal or in your smoothie, or a tablespoon of ground walnuts or something on a salad, things like that. It's the eating handfuls of nuts that can get in the way of both weight loss and improving your blood sugar. So in order to do that, it's really important to work on your environment and your food prep processes. So whether that's batch cooking, lots of people are living in an environment where people are not eating the same way as they are, and that's really hard. So we have clients who have their own kitchen. I had a client who she had all of her food in her lanai, or outside in a different space. People put refrigerators in the garage or somewhere else. They have their loved ones lock up their unhealthy snacks. But I do agree with Chef AJ who says if it's in your house, it's in your mouth. So you really have to work on your environment and you have to figure out what your processes are. So we talk about 90% of the time, we're talking about habits. That's really what going to a plant-based diet is and trying to get a healthy lifestyle. Food prep is part of that. How are you going to have the food that you need ready to eat so that you're never hungry? Another really important factor is that lifestyle change is much easier when you're part of a community. And so here you are part of a community. So bravo to you. And you'll find that just being able to call somebody and hold yourself accountable and talk about what you're doing, what's going well, and what you're struggling with makes the process much easier. So don't do it alone and don't assume that other people are having an easier time than you are. So I really want to emphasize that because we're all the same. We're all learning. The other thing that we're learning more and more about is that it's important to eat in line with your circadian rhythm. And by that, I mean, we encourage people to make breakfast and lunch their largest meal and to have an early and late dinner. So one of our coaches put together this awesome slide during our retreat last week. And this graph shows the rise and fall of your insulin sensitivity during the day. And we see that most people, they are relatively insulin insensitive early in the morning. And then your body starts revving up. And so it's your insulin sensitivity is best between 7 and 3, which is the yellow area of the graph. And that's really where you want to be doing most of your eating. And then it starts to slow down between 3 and 7, and then it's low again after 7 o'clock. So many of us have come through the this idea where we should be doing fasting, and we should skip breakfast and we should start eating at noon or 1 o'clock, and then people are eating until 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. And that really disrupts our metabolism. There was a recent study that had people eating either breakfast and lunch or lunch and dinner, and they fed them the exact same food. And the people that ate a large breakfast and a lunch and skipped dinner, or they had much better blood sugar and they lost more weight than the people that were skipping breakfast and eating lunch and dinner late. So I love this little picture of what you'll look like if you eat the big breakfast, the medium-sized lunch, and the small dinner. And this is totally countercultural to how we were all raised, but this is the best way to eat. And you'll feel the best, and it will help you to not be prone to snacking. So that is one of the things that we see is that if you don't get enough food in your body at breakfast and lunch, you cannot make up for it late in the day. And you'll just be hungry and you'll be snacking, 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 snacking. And I can see this in myself if I, miss lunch because I have a meeting or something happens. You just have more of an insatiable hunger later in the day. So we really encourage you to shift your eating habits. So again, this is habit and it takes time to adjust. So just in closing, I'll just tell you a little bit about Mastering Diabetes. We offer private coaching, small group coaching, and large group coaching. It's all done via Zoom or It's our large group coaching is online mostly, and you can chat with a coach. And then we have lots of online learning modules. We have a community forum. We have recipes and hundreds of other resources. We have, I think we're up to about 17 live events with our different coaches. So coaches have like an open drop-in small group format where people can come and ask questions. We have lectures, we have cooking demos, and exercise classes. So there's a lot going on. And like I said, you can chat with a coach. We also have live retreat opportunities. So we just took 12 clients to Fort Lauderdale. So this is the first live retreat that Mastering Diabetes has done since COVID. They used to do them in Costa Rica. And so that also means that our team has never been together before, ever. We've been all working together for many years, and no one has ever all been together. So there were four coaches that went and several staff members that were there. And we took 12 clients. We had a doctor join us, and we did all of the cooking, and we were on a beautiful place in Fort Lauderdale. And we have another one coming up October 29th to November 2nd. So we are already taking registrations for that. So it was very fun, exhausting, but very fun. And we saw some amazing, amazing results. I saw several clients get off of insulin completely. Two clients got off of their long-acting insulin, and I have another client that was taking about 20 units of short-acting in addition to the long-acting that she was taking, and she's down to 2 units of short-acting during the day. We saw people get off of blood pressure medications and continue with their improvement once they got home. So it was very fun. Okay, with that, I'm gonna probably stop sharing and I will take any questions that you have.
Linda, that was so interesting. And my list of questions got answered. But there's some things I want to ask again that were just fantastic. And I want to tell the group that Linda has had quite a health journey. But let's remember that when Linda answers the questions, just like with all of our sessions, this is informational. And she will share with you her experience. She will share the experience of our clients, and she will share research. But what you do is determined between you and your health provider. So if we approach it that way, we should be fine. So Linda, the first question, this one came from one of our male members, and it was when he was first changing to plant-based, and he kept telling me that if I could just lose weight, it would help me with my blood sugar control because he was trying to keep from having to take more medications. And my question to you is, have you seen patients who were able to, when they lost weight, to decrease some of their medications?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we see that all the time. We see that within a couple of days. And we saw that the first night of the retreat after the first meal, people's blood sugar after taking that walk and eating a healthy, low-fat meal, high in carbohydrate. And when I say high in carbohydrate, I mean we were serving mangoes, papayas, um, all different kinds of fruits, berries and stuff like that too. But bananas, garbanzo beans. We were serving all kinds of high carb foods, and people's blood sugar was so low, so much lower, that they were afraid to take some of their medication. So, yes, we see that all the time. And it's very true that the act of losing weight, you then the fat in the cells starts to come out because the fat is gone. And so we do see your insulin sensitivity improves for every pound of weight you lose. So it really is true. It really is, it's kind of a circular thing. So you really do need to lose weight in order to improve that your insulin sensitivity.
We also have a question in the chat box about popcorn, air popped popcorn. Is that a good snack? And is snacking okay?
Okay, so I'm different than some of my other coaches. So I call popcorn a weight gain food, and I will explain what I mean by that. Um, So when you take either water or fiber out of a food, it becomes a food that is much more high in calorie density, right? And so you can eat huge amounts of popcorn and ingest hundreds of calories without blinking an eye, without ever getting full. And so I call that a weight gain food. So if I have clients that are trying to gain weight, I might have them eat that. Um, Bread is also a weight gain food, 1,400 calories a pound. So if you need to gain weight, that might be something you want to eat. Now, would I eat popcorn? Have I eaten popcorn late at night? Yes. Should I eat popcorn late at night if I want optimal blood sugar? No, I actually shouldn't be snacking at all. And so, what we're trying to do is to help people learn how to eat enough carbohydrates in their meals so that they're not hungry in between meals and they can go to bed on an empty stomach without being hungry and they can wake up hungry the next morning. Now, this takes learning because many of us have eaten late into the night. And then we have clients say, well, I'm not hungry in the morning. Well, of course, you're not hungry in the morning because you were eating at midnight. So we want to be nice and hungry in the morning. And in order to do that, you want to back up your dinner so that you finish eating, by 6 or 7 o'clock at the very latest, and then you don't snack again. So if you are finding yourself hungry in between meals and needing to snack, that tells me your previous meal is too small. And I would take the snack that you think you need and put it into that other meal. So this is not about reducing the amount of food because you should be eating large volumes of food, but it is about reducing the calorie density of the food. And so if you find yourself eating popcorn late at night and you probably were getting 300 or 400 calories in that easily, you might want to think about adding a couple pieces of fruit, maybe one or two at breakfast, after breakfast, right after breakfast, as soon as as part of your breakfast or at your lunch meal. So, and a perfect example of that is what people eat for breakfast. So they might say, I had oatmeal and fruit. And I say, great. So how much oatmeal did you have? Kathy has had me do this to her. People will say I eat a half a cup of oats and a half a cup of blueberries, a half a cup of strawberries, and some plant milk. And I'm like, great, that's about 250, 300 calories. That's it. And that's not enough food because a woman needs 12 to 1500 calories a day. Men need 15 to 1800 calories if you're not super active. If you are super active, probably 2000 calories. I think Cyrus eats like 4000. Robbie does too. So um, if you're super, super active, you need more calories. If you start your day with a 200 to 300 calorie breakfast, of course you're going to be snacking all day. And that's where people start with the nuts. And they say, I just grab a handful of nuts in between. And of course, your body is designed to do that because we don't want to die. And so if you're not feeding enough, yourself enough to live on, you are going to perish unless you get some high calorie density foods. And if you listen to Doug Lisle, he talks about eating the most calorie dense foods that you can possibly put into your body in the shortest amount of time. Nuts fit in perfectly with that. And so that chocolate does too. So you want to build yourself a nice bowl in the morning instead. And so you might have a cup of oatmeal. So that would be 300 calories and 2 cups of fruit. And that might get you to 400 or 500 calories and a little bit of plant milk and a little bit of seeds or something on top of that, and some greens, of course. And so there's a lot of different ways you can do it, but I prefer people to eat 3 nice meals with 3 to 5 hours in between them. And that will give you that nice rise in your blood sugar. And within 3 hours, you want it to come back down to baseline. And then it'll go up again and it'll come back down again. And you have lots of time then, especially then in the overnight hours, you're going to go to bed and your blood sugar is low because it's been at least 3 hours since you had your last bite of food, hopefully more than that. You want to go to bed when your blood sugar is, 100, 120. And then overnight, your blood sugar will stay low, hopefully. And that will solve, a third of your problem right there in terms of your A1C is your overnight. So eating late at night, of course, is going to elevate your blood sugar. That's another reason not to do snacking. But doing that 3 to 5 hours really helps with that nice rise and fall of your blood sugar. Otherwise, what we see is your blood sugar goes up in the morning when you eat, and then it starts to come down, but then you eat again and it goes back up and it starts to come down, but you eat again. And so then it just elevates your baseline, and your average glucose then is elevated. So, diabetes is a math game, which works for me because I have a finance MBA. So it is ultimately a math game that you're trying to manage.
Do you find too, I think sometimes people think that their blood sugar going up and down is what affects their appetite. Like when their blood sugar is low, they're hungry. When it's high, how does that affect you actually being hungry and wanting to eat?
Hmm. I do see that. And we do see a little bit of evidence. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not doctory. I'm not sciencey at all. What I see in clients is that some people tend to, it seems like their blood sugar their body can overshoot the production of insulin. And so when they are, so their blood sugar goes high and then it kind of overshoots it and then they drop like a rock. And that just means that they have some insulin resistance they need to work on so that their body doesn't have to do that, because eventually your pancreas will burn out if you are causing it to do those highs and lows all the time. Your pancreas gets tired. And so as people become more insulin sensitive, that will stop. People who are used to being high do feel hangry when they are low. That's part of their body gets used to what it kind of what it's used to. It's not very well said, but it gets to a certain point, and say that you run at 200 every day. I have clients that feel sick when they get below 200, honestly. And so your body takes time to adjust to lower blood sugar. You will, if your blood sugar is up in the 200s, you will feel tired. Okay, because you're not getting the glucose is not going into your cells, it is stuck in your blood. So yeah, you're not getting any energy. You're going to want to take a nap. So, but the hangriness, I think, could go away if people take the fat out of their meals, they add the greens, they add the walking, make sure that they're eating slowly so that they're trying to prevent that rapid spike. Uh, and that gets better over time. I promise you it does.
So if one of the you were talking about eating greens, and from the chat box we have a question: do cooked greens count?
Um, we coaches, we disagree on this. I want you to eat greens, so I'm good with cooked greens. The raw greens will work better and faster. But if the only green you like is cooked kale, I want you to eat cooked kale, So I wouldn't let perfect be the enemy of good on this. And you should be eating greens though 3 times a day. So one of those could be a salad. One of those could be you taking, out of the bag, and one of them could be the hot soup or other thing in the greens, or a stir fry that has greens in it or something else. But you just want to get as many greens in there as you can. I'm not as picky as some of my coaching colleagues.
Linda, great presentation. A
Thank you.
question I get often is about the blood sugar in the morning, and I'm not sure I'm pronouncing this right, but for everybody, I think it's smoji. Am I
Mhm.
pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah, I
And
mean,
the
we
dawn
see,
effect. So
yeah.
there's two different ones. Can you explain those?
Well, mostly Samoji, I think it's feet on the floor. As soon as you get up, that happens. And the dawn effect, too, we see a long, slow rise in the morning. So easier for me to say what I would do about it. What I see is that people who have insulin resistance suffer with this more than people who don't. So somebody who's very insulin resistant might wake up at 130, and in an hour they might be up at 230. So as they get the fat out of their cells, they improve their diet. They feed themselves low fat, healthy foods, lots of whole foods. We see that get resolved. Okay. The other thing so weight loss is extremely helpful here. And I know that's hard for people, but weight loss comes when you eat low fat, um, nutritious foods. You should be able to eat large amounts of it and lose weight fairly easily. Harder after you go through menopause, but still, if people have lots of weight to lose, they can be encouraged that this will get better. It is part of our body though, that our liver is waking us up by putting glucose into our bloodstream. And so it's not a bad thing. I mean, hey, wake up, get moving. What you can do though is get up and eat breakfast. As soon as you eat breakfast, your liver says, "Oh, she's up. I'm good to go here. I don't have to add more glucose. There's already glucose here." So I really recommend that people get up and they just get going with their breakfast. If you need to go out and exercise, go exercise. Grab a banana or something maybe before you go. And even that little bit of um, food will help cut that cycle off. So give that a try.
And one of the other questions Hope was asking about when you talked about the muscles and the relationship to blood glucose. And I remember you told me one time that you learned that if you exercise, you can eat. So,
Well, that might have been, I mean, that is true. If you like to eat, you have to exercise a lot. Especially if you're a woman and you're over a certain age. The more you like to eat, the more you have to move your body. But it is very helpful. I mean, we're just seeing so much evidence now that as we age, we need to lift weights. And so we see, I mean, there's like no downside to lifting weights and doing cardiovascular exercise. So it's good for your heart, it's good for your mind, it's great for your joints. So you don't want to overdo it, but I can't really emphasize enough how important it is. And I want people to start with something that they think that they might enjoy. So, like, I hated exercise until I started doing reformer Pilates. Um, and I was in my 50s before I really got going on exercise. And I didn't get good at being consistent until I paid a lot of money for the membership and got fined if I didn't show up. So that to me was the accountability that I needed. And so it helps to put yourself on a short leash. That's what I call it. Getting some accountability, whether you ask a friend for accountability. So when I started my coach training, one of the things that we were required to do was to have somebody to hold us accountable every week. So I picked my most assertive friend and said, "Will you hold me accountable?" And every week on a Friday, she would say, "Did you read this? Did you do this?" And I'd have to say whether I did it or not. So I did everything that I was supposed to do because I had someone holding me accountable. So if you like or don't like exercise, get somebody to hold you accountable. Um, and really think about what kind of exercise you want to do, because once you start doing something that you like, even if it's not like resistance training, it will help you open your mind to adding something else on. So I know myself, I won't do resistance training without a trainer. So I've hired a trainer. So you just have to kind of give in to who you are, know what you're dealing with, and kind of work with yourself.
Okay, we have another question from the chat box. What is the optimum high and low blood sugar levels?
Well, what doctors, I believe, are looking for is that you stay generally between 70 and 180. Now, that being said, a non-diabetic person will generally stay under 140 after meals, but not always. It might be like 80 to 90% of the time they stay in that under 140 range. And so I hate to say what the optimal, and I saw a lot of people writing these numbers down, Kathy Thornhill in particular. I don't like it when people write this down because then when they have a meal where their blood sugar goes higher, they freak out and they think they're dying. And so certain foods will cause your blood sugar to rise. I would say that 90% of Americans have a higher than 140 blood sugar on Thanksgiving and Christmas and Easter and Halloween and probably a lot of other days. And so certain foods, certain times of the day, if you're eating late at night, if you're eating a very high fat meal, you could give yourself a high blood sugar. I think, eating some kind of a pizza laden with meat and cheese on a white crust late in the evening, like we did in college. I'm sure a lot of, and then people were drinking beer with them. A lot of people's blood sugar is above 140. So I think it's more important to look at your average glucose. Certainly, if you are the kind of person that has uncontrolled diabetes and your blood sugar is above 250 for any amount of time, I would seek medical attention. So I'm not a doctor, but that is a disclaimer. You don't want to be up in the 250s. But you will sometimes see your blood sugar pop up to 200 or 180 or something. But the time and range is the most important thing. Well, one of the more important things. I mean, you don't want your blood sugar to pop up to 600, but more importantly, what most people are looking at is to try to get their time in range. If you were wearing a continuous glucose monitor, which isn't exactly the same as your blood sugar, most doctors will look at the 70, what percentage of the time are you between 70 and 180? And research shows that if you can stay at 70% or higher, your A1C will generally be less than 7%. And that less than 7% is where we see the cutoff for diabetes-related complications. So that's a really good first place to try to achieve if you are diabetic and you're trying to improve your situation. You want to try to get your time in range in that 70 to 180 range at 70% or higher. And of course, with our clients, we're trying to do better than that. So I can't, the optimal A1C, of course, is not to be diabetic. So under 5.6, 5.6 or below is non-pre-diabetic, non-diabetic. And it can go down as low as into the fours, but it doesn't have to.
We saw this question twice in Debbie in your class on diabetes recently, and that was, how do I stop the journey that's starting with pre-diabetes and keeping from going to diabetes? What would you recommend that they look at?
I would recommend taking the fat out of your diet. So saturated fat, if you're snacking on vegan junk foods, potato chips, French fries, I also believe that the baked goods with lots of nuts and seeds, I don't think those are helpful for people. The reason people go from pre-diabetes to diabetes is that their pancreas gets tired. So we went back into that. If you think about those insulin resistant slides, you've got fat inside the cell and it is dumbing up the lock, and that means the insulin can't do its job, and so your body makes more and more insulin trying to address the issue. And for a while, it can overwhelm and let more of the glucose into the cells, and then it gets tired and it starts doing the cells start committing suicide. And by the time you are diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, you have lost 80% of your pancreas. Now we are your beta cells. So we're kind of starting to see whether, a lot of people can live on that just fine and they can reverse things. Other people who have had type 2 diabetes for like more than 10 years, it's very hard to completely reverse. But I'll never say never because we see miracles happening every single day in what we do. But you really have to get the fat out of your diet. I would, do the things that I said. I would eat low fat, what we call green light meals. So beans, greens, non-starchy vegetables. I would add starchy vegetables, potatoes, sweet potatoes. I would eat simple meals, whole grains. I would eat them in their whole grain form. So if you're familiar with the whole grain hierarchy, where you eat oat groats instead of steel cut oats or rolled oats or any of those, and you eat hulled barley and hulled farro and all those things, that will help you reduce um, how fast your blood sugar will go up. But any of those foods in any form, they will not cause diabetes. But it's top would be a major thing. Alcohol, um, and then, high fat foods, especially high saturated fat foods. I see lots of people thinking coconut is a healthy food as well. So that would be another thing. Coconut milk, putting coconut milk in curries and things. You you don't want to ever use canned coconut milk. So that is very high in saturated fat. That's not going to help you. So you got to be really vigilant getting the fat out. And, you want to make sure you still get, your essential fatty acids and everything, but you don't want to overwhelm your body with too much fat. That's what we see. And processed foods are a big thing, even in the plant-based community. I think people are buying crackers and eating lots of breads and they're, fake cheeses, the fake meats, the packaged foods, and they say plant-based and they are high in fat. Even some of the Blue Zone's kitchen meals, they're high in fat. So if you need instant meals, of course, Dr. McDougall, he has a lot of good things. Some of the plant strong ones are okay, but I personally wouldn't use some of those processed foods like the Big Bowl Rips, Big Bowl cereals, because some of them are high in fat. So those are the things that we see that trip people up on our program. Yeah, so many people are unaware that saturated fat is in coconut milk. Yeah.
Okay, well, we're running out of time, but my gosh, we could stay here all day. It was fantastic. And the tips that you don't hear from a doctor, it's just take the medication or take these pills or whatever. And so I'm going to share my screen now so I can share with you one last important slide.
Yep.
Watch for the lavender stress ball and linen spray. Wow.
Yes, and Linda, that's coming to your Florida home.
Very good. Thank you. Don't send it to Minnesota. It will never get here.
Right. But after May 12th, it'll be there. And so hope you enjoy it. The lavender stress ball, I'm sure you could use right now. And when you
Absolutely.
And then the linen spray is kind of neat. You spray it on your sheets or your cushions in your office or your.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate this opportunity to be with you. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we close out?
I do. I just want people to know that you can do this. I mean, I see people that are so sick and in a few months, their lives have turned around. They start feeling better. And you just need a little bit of help, So if you need help, use your community here, reach out to Mastering Diabetes and talk to someone on our team. You can do this. All of us that have done this, we're all still doing this. And so we don't have to be perfect. We just need to get good at it. And you need to just chip away. Most of you are probably doing 80% of things right. And you have this couple little tiny things you need to make changes to. So don't get discouraged. Okay.
That sounds great. Thank you so much. You've given us the courage to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we're going to talk about what's going to happen next. So you're welcome to stay, Linda, or you can slip out to take care of all those things you need to do.
I'm going to slip out and start packing. Great to see
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. That was fantastic. Okay, so let's take a look at what's coming up. So next, we want you to be aware that this was videotaped or taped, and it will be on our YouTube page. That's the QR code to our YouTube page if you want to take a look at it. I can't give you the actual link to the video yet because it's not up there. But if you just go to the page, it'll be the most recent video that's been posted.
And Kathy, and there's also a link in the chat box for the very same thing.
Great. Okay. And then the next thing is on our YouTube page, this is the Chat and Chew More Plants. There is a video that is from Dr. Barnard's event with Dr. Joshi. And it's fantastic. And I want you to know about one attribute of it that you might find helpful. Say you want to listen just to Dr. Barnard. If you look down in the notes that are underneath the video, it has a link exactly to that place in the video because it's a long video because we have two speakers. Debbie did a great cooking demonstration. We did Q&A with both of these speakers. So look down there and find the one that you want at this point, or just watch the whole thing. And that's the QR code that will take you to that YouTube page. And I think you said that you've got our YouTube page open, except this one goes directly to Dr. Barnard's video.
And I posted that link also. There's several links in the chat box.
Now, this is Linda's podcast. That's, you do it, it's audio is what it is. And this one I put up probably in 2024. I didn't put it up. Ken put it up. Thank you, Ken. And you might want to listen to that one. Again, there's the QR code. And Vicki, I think you were going to put that in the chat box too.
It's in there. Yep.
Yeah. And it's only 14 minutes long. It tells about the 3 diagnoses that she had for diabetes. It's very interesting. And Debbie, what's coming up to help us work on our environment so we can do all these things?
Well, thank you, Kathy. Yes, master your plant-based meals, make them simple, make them easy and part of your real life. We have heard many, many times how beneficial a whole food plant-based lifestyle is. So we want to make sure that it's easy to put in place and easy to sustain. So we're going to be learning how to build a balanced and satisfying meal. Batch cooking will be part of this demonstration. We will also hear some smart grocery shopping tips and some label reading tips, label reading tips that you probably haven't heard of before. Because I like to make things a little bit different for you. How to reduce and eliminate those nasty oils that probably have some saturated fat, and we know how bad that saturated fat is. And then real life strategies for busy nights, dining out, and staying on track. So all of that in a short period of time. Do you think we can do it? Yes, we can.
Oh, thank you, Debbie. That was perfect. And yes, we can do those things with your help.